On this video, we want to get a quick overview of the four primary sources of payment whenever a person is going to a skilled nursing home. First of all, there's private pay, then we're going to talk about Medicare, and then we're going to discuss Medicaid, and then one that most people really don't know about called Medicaid Pending, and we'll spend a lot of time on that. First of all, we're going to talk about private pay. Now, private pay is expensive because it's 24-hour skilled nursing. And you're going to look at anywhere between $6,000 and $9,000 a month just from what I've seen. It may be different in your area. And that's not going to cover many other things like medications, doctor visit, hospital stays, therapy, things like that. So for many of us, that's really not an option. So let's move on to the next one. Let's talk about Medicare. Now, Medicare is typically for short-term stays. I have people call me quite often saying, I need to get my mother in there. She's just got to that point in her life, and she has Medicare. And I try to explain Medicare is not for long-term staying at the facility. It's for recovery, for rehab, for therapy, for taking care of a wound, for getting IV antibiotics, recovering from an accident, things like that. The intent is that the patient is going to receive the care they need and get better and discharge from the facility and go back home. Now, there are basically two types of Medicare. One of them is called traditional Medicare. To qualify for traditional Medicare, you need to have 3 consecutive midnights inpatient in a hospital. That means not just observation or ER, but actually admitted to the hospital within the last 30 days. Now, traditional Medicare doesn't have any extenuating circumstances to get you around that. That's pretty much what it's going to take. Now, it's very good insurance because it covers 100 days of skilled nursing in the facility. The first 20 days are paid 100%. The next 80 days are paid at 80%. And if you have a supplemental coverage or something like that, it will help take care of the remaining 20%. And that 100 days, just for your information, can reset back to zero once the coverage has ended because they got better and went home and they spent at least 60 days out of the hospital. Then if they go back in the hospital, get their 3 midnights, they can come back in for up to 100 days again. Now, the second type of Medicare, we call managed Medicare. Basically, that's going to be through another party like Presbyterian, United Healthcare, Blue Cross Blue Shield, Humana, different companies like that. Now, to qualify to be able to use that kind of care, we get all the information from your doctor or from the hospital, and then we have to submit it to your insurance company, and they have to agree that this patient needs to come into a skilled nursing facility, and then they will give us an authorization, and then the person can come in. Now, they also get to say how long the person stays because they will watch our reports on the person, and then when they think that the patient has recovered as much as they can or are back to their base normal, then they tell us how many days until they have to discharge. Thirdly, let's talk about a payer source called Medicaid. This is one that is a very big thing. We're just going to do some of the basics on it right here. Medicaid is typically for long-term care patients that are going to be there probably through the end of life. Now, it can be used for skilled services like therapy and rehab and things like that, but it's going to have authorization, just like a managed Medicare plan would have to have. But to come in and use the benefits for long-term care, the patient is going to have to need long-term care. They're going to have to need things like taking a shower, going to the restroom, preparing food, paying bills, things like that, so that it actually qualifies them to need long-term care at a nursing facility. There are various categories because people come to me all the time and they say, my mom or my dad or my loved one, they have Medicaid, so we're good. And I have to tell them there are a lot of different categories of Medicaid. There is community Medicaid, there's Medicaid just for family planning. There's a number of different types of Medicaid, but what you're going to have for a skilled nursing facility is Medicaid that is called full Medicaid or institutional Medicaid. That's what it requires to be able to cover the cost of a skilled nursing facility. Many times, if the person already has a different category of Medicaid, they can upgrade to full Medicaid without a big hassle. But that's on a case-by-case basis. You'll need to speak to a representative of the Medicaid office or somebody at the facility, the business office manager at the facility, with your case to really see if that's an option. Now, there's a fourth option that I mentioned, and it's called Medicaid Pending. This one is available at times for patients who don't have Medicaid, but they need long-term care in a skilled nursing facility. We call it Medicaid Pending because the goal is to get Medicaid, but you haven't had a chance to get it yet, or you're not quite able to qualify yet. Medicaid Pending is when the patient or a family provides the facility with some specific financial documents so the facility business office can review those documents, and if they deem that this patient will probably qualify for Medicaid, then it is possible for us to go ahead and admit that patient, and then once they're in the building, we can help you finish the paperwork and file for Medicaid and help with that process. And after Medicaid approves them, Medicaid will actually pay back from the point that the patient came into the facility, so the family or the patient is not out any money. Some of the things we're going to need to be able to see if you qualify for Medicaid Pending is going to be the last 3 months' bank statements from the patient and the current bank balance of all of their bank accounts. We need copies of any and all life insurance plans that the patient may have, and then a list of any other assets and a small form that I use that is usually filled out easily over the phone. Now, qualifications vary quite a bit from state to state, so you will have to check with your local Medicaid office or search online exactly what it takes to qualify for Medicaid in your area. But again, your admissions person, liaison, social worker from the facility can help you with this process, especially once they're in the facility. Now, in my area, the income of the patient must be less than, well, a little over $2,900 a month, and that's total income. And if it's less than that, then there's a good chance they're going to qualify. We'll need the bank balance that needs to be under $2,000. And if they've got more than the $2,000 in, a lot of times the family says, well, we'll just divvy some of that up. But you've got to be careful, and you need to keep receipts on anything you spend, because you cannot gift any money or any possessions, a house, a car, to lower the assets of the patient. Medicaid will discover that and will possibly disqualify them from the system at that time. So you can do some things if they have more money in their bank account than Medicaid will allow. You can use some of that money for expenses that the patient needs to pay. Maybe they have some bills that need to be paid off, some loans that need to be paid off. Perhaps they need a new television to take with them into the facility. Maybe they need some new clothes. Maybe they just need some things. And you want to take that money then and use it for the patient because it's their money, and that's what it needs to be used for. They can also use the money in the bank account to go into the facility for a week, 2 weeks, a month ahead of time, private paid, and that will spend the money down so that then they can qualify for Medicaid. Now, life insurance plans are considered assets by Medicaid. You can't transfer them into another family member's name because they still say the patient can still benefit from that money. So what you'll need to do is actually fairly simple. You take the life insurance plan down to a local funeral home that your family uses, and you end up signing it over to them. Now, when the day comes that the loved one passes, then that money is used to pay for the funeral and all the expenses, and anything that is left over then comes back to the family. So you don't lose any money that way. Now, some people say, will I lose the house and car and all that? You are allowed by Medicaid to own one house and one car, although you may have to show the value of those just for the records. Now, after the first month, the patient's check that he's receiving from Social Security will be used to help pay for the care at the facility. They do receive a small stipend in return for basic living needs, but all of the other needs, food, lodging, medical bills, everything is covered by Medicaid, although a part of their check, the largest part of their check, will have to go to help offset a little of that. Now, you can apply online for Medicaid. However, if you've already made the decision to go to the facility, I recommend you to talk with the people at the facility first, because they can help you, and it will be a much simpler process going that way than trying to figure it out online. Now, if the patient is legally married, we get into a whole new set of rules there that I really can't go into on this video. Just know that you're going to need somebody from Medicaid office or from the facility to help you navigate that. And you do need to be aware that insurance typically will not cover private rooms, so it will be a shared room. So that's a very brief overview of 4 different types of payment that is used for a skilled nursing facility. I hope it gives you some ideas. Please leave me comments. Let me know of any questions you may have, and we'll try to address those. And it would be appreciated if you will hit the like and the share, because then you get to keep up with the videos as we're making more that apply to caring for people who need the help. Thank you. Have a good evening.